Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a situation that just seems to defy easy answers. The really tense relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
That's right. We're focusing on a ceasefire, one that was meant to pave the way for diplomacy, but instead just collapsed really quickly and with tragic results.
Yeah, and we're digging into the reports about why that truce failed and the violence that followed.
Exactly. Our sources paint a pretty grim picture of how fragile peace can be. We had these high-stakes talks planned in Doha, supposed to be happening, and then boom, military strikes kill civilians and the whole thing gets torpedoed. It's almost a textbook example of diplomatic hopes crashing against reality on the ground.
And the detail that really jumped out at me, the most immediate sort of shocking fallout, was the impact on ordinary life, on culture.
You mean the cricket situation?
Exactly. The Afghanistan Cricket Board, the ACB, pulled out of that upcoming Tri-Nation T20I series, the one involving Pakistan.
Yeah.
When a conflict spills onto the sports field like that, you really feel the weight of it, don't you?
You do. And that ACB decision wasn't just symbolic, was it? It felt very direct, a political and cultural reaction.
To what exactly?
To this alleged ceasefire violation, the one that reportedly killed athletes. The reports suggest, they'd agreed to extend this truce until the Doha talks wrapped up.
Right.
But then Afghanistan says Pakistan launched new strikes, breaking that agreement. And the timing, just hours before the diplomats were supposed to meet.
Hours? That feels like either a complete breakdown of command or, well, something more deliberate.
Raises serious questions.
Okay, let's unpack the violation itself. Because the human cost, that's the core tragedy here, isn't it? We need to get into the specifics of those strikes in Section 1, understand what happened and why the ACB reacted so strongly.
All right, so the violence seems centered on Paktika province. Taliban officials reported at least 10 people killed.
Okay.
The strikes apparently hit 3 different locations, specifically in the Urgun and Barmal districts. These aren't right on the border where the earlier heavy fighting was.
So deeper into the province.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
And the reason it made such waves, leading to the cricket boycott, is who some of the victims were.
The athletes. Can you give us the details on that, the ACB report?
Yeah, the official ACB statement was quite specific. It confirmed 3 local Afghan cricketers were killed. Their names were Kabeer, Sibghatullah, and Haroon, all from Urgun District.
Oh, man.
And the story's just awful. They'd apparently just played in a friendly match in Sharana, the provincial capital.
Right.
They got back home to Urgun, were having some kind of gathering, and that's when they were hit, targeted there.
Wow. That detail
Yeah.
just grounds the whole thing, doesn't it? It takes it away from geopolitics straight to human loss. These weren't soldiers, just young guys probably celebrating a game.
Exactly. And their location suddenly becomes a target zone. It really shifts the focus.
Yeah.
And then you have the usual fog of war problem. Getting accurate information immediately is so hard, especially casualty figures. They get politicized instantly.
Right. Conflicting reports start flying around.
Totally.
Yeah.
Our sources show quite a bit of variation right off the bat.
So what are the main differences we should be aware of? What are the sources saying?
Well, the ACB statement said 3 players were martyred, plus 5 other countrymen. So 8 dead in total and 7 injured.
Okay. 3 players, 8 total dead.
But then Reuters, for instance, they quoted an ACB spokesman saying the strike killed 8 local cricketers, specifically cricketers.
Ah, okay. So that's a subtle but potentially significant difference. 8 civilians, including 3 players, versus 8 actual cricketers.
It is. And while the number itself might seem small in the grand scheme of conflict, the narrative impact is huge. Either way, 3 or 8 young athletes, it confirms the strike hit civilians right in the community.
Definitely.
And then Tolo News reporting seemed to back that up, saying the airstrikes hit residential areas in Urgun and Barmal.
Residential areas.
Yeah, which tells you this wasn't some isolated strike on a hidden militant camp. It was in populated areas, which naturally means casualty counts will vary wildly depending on who's counting local police, the ACB making a statement, international news trying to verify.
And that confusion, that lack of trust in the numbers, it feeds right back into the diplomatic failure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The first casualty is trust, as they say.
Which makes the breakdown of the Doha talks even more frustrating, this human tragedy happening right as they were supposed to be talking peace.
It does. So let's pivot to Doha. The planned talks. The truce that didn't even survive long enough for people to get to the table. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, walk us through the timeline again.
Okay, so after really heavy fighting, they first agree on a 48-hour ceasefire, just a pause.
Right.
Then, crucially, they extend that truce. explicitly until the Doha talks conclude. Delegations are getting ready, packing their bags, essentially. A window for diplomacy was officially open.
And yet, almost instantly after that extension is announced, the very thing the truce was meant to stop these deadly airstrikes happens. How does a high-level agreement like that just evaporate?
Well, this seems to point directly to a really critical, maybe even deliberate distinction in how the truce was understood or defined. And this is probably the key political point from the sources. Pakistani security officials, when asked about these strikes, they offered this clarification, this nuance. They said the ceasefire agreement was only with the Afghan Taliban, the ruling group,
Okay.
but not with the various Islamist militant groups who are based in Afghanistan, but launch attacks into Pakistan.
Hang on. Let's pause there, because that sounds problematic. The Afghan Taliban are running the country, right?
Effectively, yes.
So if the truce is with them, but Pakistan still feels free to bomb targets inside Afghanistan because they say those targets aren't the Taliban, who exactly are these other militants? And how does that work?
That's the core ambiguity, isn't it? It's what allows the conflict to simmer, even during a supposed peace. These could be groups that operate independently, maybe even groups the Taliban opposes on paper, or groups they tolerate but claim they can't fully control.
So Pakistan is essentially saying, we have a deal with you, the government, but we reserve the right to hit these other guys hiding in your territory if they attack us.
That seems to be the argument. Self-defense against active threats, regardless of the main ceasefire with the Taliban authorities.
But from the Afghan side, a bomb dropped in Paktika is a bomb dropped in Paktika. It's their sovereign territory, their citizens being killed like these cricketers. They're not going to care about Pakistan's distinction about who the intended target was, are they?
Exactly right. For the Afghan government, any strike inside their borders is a violation, period. A violation of sovereignty and the truce. But for Pakistan, they're likely arguing they hit legitimate militant targets who weren't covered by the specific terms of the deal.
So the whole thing was built on a fundamental disagreement about what the truce even meant.
It looks that way. This difference in interpretation makes the whole diplomatic effort seem almost doomed from the start. It's like a truce designed with a loophole big enough to fly a drone through. The moment someone spots a target they deem a threat, the ceasefire becomes irrelevant for that operation.
It's a semantic time bomb, basically.
A good way to put it.
And the Doha talks were supposed to maybe defuse that bomb, iron out these details, but it blew up before they could even get started.
Precisely.
And to understand just how badly they needed those talks, how desperate things were, we need to look at what happened right before that initial 48-hour truce was even called. This wasn't a simmering conflict, it was boiling over.
Oh, absolutely not simmering. You just have to rewind a few days to the weekend before, around October 12th.
Yeah.
The border escalation was really intense then.
What happened?
We saw this rapid cycle of retaliation kick off. Afghanistan launched airstrikes against Pakistan.
Okay.
They claimed it was direct retaliation for an earlier attack in Kabul, which, importantly, Afghanistan blamed on Pakistan.
Right, so tit for tat escalating quickly, and the numbers flying around from that exchange were, well, they were wild.
They were. The clash data really shows the propaganda war alongside the actual fighting. Yeah. Afghanistan claimed its strikes killed 58 Pakistani soldiers.
58.
Pakistan shot back immediately, saying, no, our losses were 23 soldiers. But, they claimed, their counterfire killed over 200 Taliban and affiliated fighters.
Wow. 58, 23, 200, whatever the real numbers, clearly major losses, huge tension, border crossings shut down.
Totally. And the rhetoric matched. I remember the Pakistani PM, Shehbaz Sharif, promising a very strong response.
Yeah.
And the Taliban warning about other ways to handle the situation if talks didn't happen. It sounded like it was really spiraling.
So what stopped it from going over the edge right then?
It seems international intervention played a key role. Reports mention Qatar and Saudi Arabia stepping in diplomatically.
Oh, okay.
They apparently put enough pressure on both sides to halt the immediate fighting. But, you know, the underlying issues obviously weren't resolved.
Clearly not, because it didn't last long.
No. Despite that intervention, things flared up again. Tuesday night, more clashes, reports of dozens more killed troops and civilians.
And that latest surge, that was the trigger for the 48-hour ceasefire. That mutual realization things were out of control.
It appears so. That spike seemed to be the final straw that led them to agree on that initial pause.
And even then, the distrust was obvious, right? Didn't both sides immediately claim the other side had asked for the ceasefire?
Exactly. Both sides wanted to look like they were negotiating from strength or that the other side blinked first. It just shows the depth of the bad blood.
Yeah.
So that whole backdrop, intense fighting, huge conflicting claims, deep suspicion, hurried international intervention, that's the shaky ground, the extended truce, the one that failed so spectacularly, was built on.
So putting it all together, the border fights, the intervention, the failed Doha plan, the strike killing civilian cricketers, what's the big picture here? What does this tell us about stability or lack thereof?
Well, it highlights just how incredibly volatile things are, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Driven by this seemingly unresolvable tension over militants crossing the border. And the fact that the immediate result of the truce failing was a strike hitting civilians athletes, and that this instantly led to a cultural reaction, the cricket boycott. It shows how fast military actions poison everything else between them.
That idea that you can have a ceasefire with exceptions, that you can say, we won't hit you, the government, but we might hit people in your country. It just seems fundamentally unworkable.
It's incredibly dangerous. And it brings us back to the core issue, really. Defining a ceasefire so narrowly or with such maybe deliberate ambiguity, it has devastating consequences.
Like what happened to the cricketers.
Exactly. When your truce language somehow allows for civilians coming home from a friendly game to potentially be seen as collateral damage because the strike was technically aimed at a different group not covered by the deal, well, it just shatters any hope of security or trust for ordinary people. So for you listening to this, maybe the key takeaway is seeing how diplomatic language, when it doesn't match the messy reality on the ground, can directly lead to tragedy. The very people piece is supposed to protect civilians, end up being the first victims when it fails.
And that narrow definition, that loophole, it feels like a guarantee that this conflict isn't over. It can just flare up again anytime.
Sadly, that seems to be the reality right now, an ongoing threat hanging over everyone in the region.